Welcome to my channel Karma Romance Stories. Please like, subscribe for more videos.
Have you ever had a boss who thought power was louder than respect? Someone who walked into a company believing fear could replace experience. That is exactly what happened when our new manager gave me one impossible order. Fire every title. My new manager ordered me to fire my entire team by Friday. Monday the board walked in and his career ended. Have you ever had a boss who thought power was louder than respect? Someone who walked into a company believing fear could replace experience. That is exactly what happened when our new manager gave me one impossible order. Fire every member of my team before Friday, or I will do it myself. He expected me to obey without asking questions. I simply nodded and stayed calm. What he never realized was that the people he wanted to destroy were the very people who had built the company from the ground up. By Monday morning, the board arrived without warning. One conversation changed everything. The man who threatened all of us turned pale as the truth came out. For 23 years, I worked for the same manufacturing company. I started as a junior technician and slowly earned the trust of everyone around me. Every promotion came through hard work instead of politics. My team was not just a group of employees. We had survived recessions, supply shortages, factory accidents, and impossible deadlines together. We celebrated weddings, birthdays, and retirements. We helped each other through illness and family emergencies. We were more like family than coworkers. When the company announced a new regional manager, everyone expected positive changes. We hoped for fresh ideas and better opportunities. Instead, we received someone who believed authority meant intimidation. His name was Daniel. On his very first day, he gathered every department head into the conference room. He walked in 20 minutes late carrying an expensive briefcase and wearing an expression that made it clear he believed he was smarter than everyone else. Without introducing himself, he said one sentence: "This company has become comfortable. Comfortable people become lazy. Lazy people get replaced." The room became silent. He spent the next hour criticizing everything without learning how the business actually operated. Every solution involved cutting people instead of improving systems. 3 days later, he called me into his office, closed the door. I sat down. He pushed a folder across the desk. Inside was a list containing every member of my department. Fire them by Friday. I looked up. "Excuse me," he repeated himself. "Every one of them. Replace them with younger, cheaper staff. If you refuse, I will fire you first." I asked one simple question: what performance issue have they created? He smiled. "Performance is not the issue. Salary is." I left his office without arguing. Instead of spreading panic, I called my team together after work. I told them exactly what happened. Nobody shouted. Nobody cried. Everyone simply looked disappointed. One older engineer quietly smiled. "Do not worry. Truth always arrives eventually." At first I thought he was trying to encourage everyone. I had no idea how important those words would become. The next morning, Daniel walked through the factory looking for mistakes. He criticized workers for talking to each other even though they were discussing safety procedures. He canceled overtime despite knowing customer orders were already delayed. He rejected maintenance requests because he wanted lower expenses on paper. Within days, production slowed dramatically. Customers started calling. Complaints increased. Daniel blamed everyone except himself. Friday morning arrived. He called me into his office. "Where are the termination letters?" I placed an envelope on his desk. Inside was not a single resignation. Instead, it contained production reports, safety awards, customer satisfaction records, and employee performance reviews. Every document proved my department was the strongest in the company. He threw the papers onto the floor. "I gave you an order," I calmly replied. "And I gave you evidence." He pointed toward the door. "You are suspended until Monday." Security escorted me outside. My team watched silently. Some looked angry. Others looked worried. I smiled because something unusual had happened before I left. The company secretary whispered, "The board is visiting Monday morning." That weekend, my phone never stopped ringing. Customers wanted updates. Former executives called asking strange questions. Retired employees suddenly wanted to know what was happening. It felt as though everyone sensed something bigger was coming. Monday morning, I arrived anyway. Security allowed me inside. Daniel looked confused. "I thought you were suspended." I answered politely. The board requested my attendance. His confidence disappeared for the first time. At exactly 9 o'clock, 5 board members entered the conference room. The chairman shook my hand. "Good morning." He then greeted every senior employee by name. Daniel looked shocked. He had never met them before. The chairman asked him one question: "Why are you attempting to dismiss the highest performing department in the company?" Daniel immediately blamed me. He claimed I resisted change. He claimed my employees refused innovation. He claimed productivity had fallen for years. The chairman quietly opened another folder. Inside were official reports. Revenue had increased every year under our department. Customer retention had reached record levels. Employee turnover was the lowest in company history. Safety incidents had dropped dramatically. Every claim Daniel made collapsed within minutes. Then something happened nobody expected. One board member smiled at my oldest engineer. "Good to see you again." Daniel looked confused. The engineer replied, "Likewise." The chairman explained, before retiring from the board, Richard chose to return as an engineer because he enjoyed solving problems more than attending meetings. The room became completely silent. Daniel slowly realized the man he planned to fire had helped build the company decades earlier and still owned a significant number of shares. Richard had never mentioned it because he wanted to be treated like everyone else. Another board member spoke. "Did you even ask who your employees were before deciding to replace them?" Daniel had no answer. The chairman continued, "Leadership begins with listening, not threatening." He then asked me one final question. "If you had followed this order, what would have happened?" I answered honestly. "The company would have lost decades of knowledge in one afternoon." Everyone nodded. Daniel was asked to leave the room. 30 minutes later, human resources entered with documents. His employment ended immediately. The chairman turned toward me. "Would you accept temporary responsibility for regional operations until we appoint someone worthy of the position?" I accepted only after requesting one condition. No employee would lose their job because of unnecessary cost cutting. The board agreed. News spread across the company within hours. Workers who expected layoffs instead received appreciation. Departments that feared restructuring finally relaxed. Customers noticed improvements within weeks. Production recovered faster than anyone predicted. Several months later, the company achieved its highest annual profit ever. During the celebration, Richard stood beside me. He smiled and said something I will never forget. "Titles create authority. Character creates leaders." That sentence became the culture of our company. Every new manager heard the story during leadership training, not to embarrass anyone, but to remind them that respect earns loyalty while fear destroys it. Years later, people still ask how one arrogant manager failed so quickly. The answer is simple. He believed people were numbers. The board believed people were the reason the company existed. That difference changed everything. Real leadership is never about power. It is about protecting the people who help build success. A manager can demand respect, but only character can earn it. The new manager lost his position because he underestimated loyalty, experience, and integrity. Never judge people by their job title, because the quietest person in the room may be the one who built everything around you.